Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. All right, so today I'm going to be painting Bouquet. I'm sipping on some wild berry tea, and if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. All right, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, ultramarine blue, Mars black, green oxide, burnt sienna, which I will sometimes call rust, deep yellow, and fire red. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 1 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 8 round synthetic brush. And I have a number 2 round synthetic brush, and I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch up those sizes if you'd like to, but that's what I'll be using. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of the things I have down there is a link to my shop where you could purchase this same exact paint kit that I'm using, or you can purchase the brushes individually and other painting supplies for this particular painting. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. All right, so what I'm going to do for the first step is I'm going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my small round brush just to demonstrate a custom color that I'm going to pre-mix. I'm going to be going for a nice peach color as my background tone for the canvas, and then we'll build all of our details on top of it. So the colors I'm going to use are red, yellow, and white to create a beautiful peach color. So I have already pre-mixed my color down on my palette so you can see where I'm headed here. This is the color that I'm going for. How I got to that was a whole bunch of white and then just a little tiny touch of yellow and red. So yellow and red is going to make orange, and then adding the white to it is going to make it, turn it into this beautiful peach color. You could certainly make yours a little bit more yellow or a little bit more red or lighter or darker than mine. It's going to be a visual preference on your part. So once I've got that pre-mixed, and you're going to want to mix a good amount of it because we're going to need it on this step and then a little bit on a future step. Not a lot on the future step, but a little bit. So I'm going to, once I've got it mixed, I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint a flat coat on the entire canvas. I don't need to use any fancy brush stroke because I do know that my next step, my step number 2, is going to be putting another full layer onto my canvas, which will take care of any streakiness or any unpainted spots that might occur from using a kind of random brush stroke. But what I like to do is, you saw I just kind of went around the edges, then I fill in my center with usually this left to right kind of crisscross type of brush stroke. And then once I've got the whole area colored in, then I'll go through and do a nice broad paint stroke left to right, which will in essence kind of flatten out or level out the paint. So if I do have any really thick spots or any spots that I may have missed, that large sweeping type of brush stroke that I do at the end would take care of it. You could also at this time paint the edges around the exterior of your canvas. That'll help to make it look nice and complete, but this is where I go back and forth, left to right, with a nice long sweeping brush stroke as that paint is still pretty moist, and this will get rid of any unpainted spots as well as level out that paint if I had any thick spots to contend with. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step, so once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the wall behind the flowers and the surface that the shoe is sitting on. So you can call it a table or a floor, whatever you'd like. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint. I'm going to be using burnt sienna, brown, and my peach color. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry. Or you can do as I did and just pull out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating kind of atmospheric dimension on my wall. So I want my flowers to kind of almost look like they've got a glow of sorts behind them. So I'm going to darken the edges a little bit. I'm going for a real vintage type of look here, so I want to have some nice warm tones to it. So I'm going to darken the edges with brown, burnt sienna, and then I'll fade it into this lighter peach. And then on the surface that my shoe is on, I'm going to be bringing that up about a third of the way up my canvas, and I'm going to make it kind of like a wood type of texture. So I'll be using the brown as well as maybe my peach color. I might use yellow too, but when I get to that part, I'll fully decide what colors I'm going to use, but I'll call them out as I use them. So I'm going to first mark off where I want my wall to meet my my table surface. So I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of brown paint. I'm going to find myself about the halfway mark on my left hand side. Then I'm going to just visually go about halfway between that and the bottom of my canvas. So for me, that's somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to go up from that about 1.5 inches or so, somewhere in through here. That's going to give me about a third of the way up my canvas. Then what I can do is I can take my brush or anything else for that matter and use it as a measuring tool to see how high up I did it on that side. Then I come over to the opposing side and do another marker at about the same height. I don't even really need to connect those at this point. They're just my visual stopping point for my background. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and burnt sienna both on my brush at the same time. I'm going to be using this kind of circular type of brush stroke to get this atmospheric type of dimension on the canvas. So I'm putting this up in the top right and left hand corner of my canvas. Now what I can do is I can pick those two colors up, a little bit of burnt sienna brown and my peach. So I have a little bit of all three colors on my brush at the same time, and I can get these to all start to intermingle with one another. So my goal is to have it kind of darker on those exterior edges, and I'm going to get it to go lighter and lighter as it comes into the center of my canvas. So my trick here is just not a lot of paint on my brush, and that's going to allow me to keep control over where I want this darker area to be. I definitely want it to kind of surround these edges in through here, and because I'm using three colors on my brush at the same time, that's providing me with a great way to have these different tonal values and temperatures throughout this color, which makes just for a nice soft appearance. Now I'm just going to start picking up my peach on my dirty brush, and I'm going to work my way towards that center. Again, I'm just using a circular type of brush stroke, but you could certainly use whatever brush stroke is comfortable to you. I like using these bristle brushes with this type of brush stroke in order to get these nice soft kind of out of focus type of appearances. It's also some good arm exercise. As you go through this, I'm like, oh, my forearm hurts right now. So yours probably does too. I know we don't often think of painting with exercising, but you do when you paint a lot. You'll notice that the arm can start to hurt after a while. It gets a little fatigued every now and again. Mine's having one of those days today. So once I've got this all nice and softened as much as I wanted to, I'm just going to continue and put a second coat of this peach all the way to my wall line. And of course, once yours dries, you might find that you want to go lighter or darker, make it more dramatic or softer. Whatever works for you visually is where you should take it. So this is looking pretty good to me. I think maybe I just want to soften these upper corners. I'm going to pick up a little bit more burnt sienna and burnt umber just to get that just a little bit softer up in those corners. And you could do multiple layers. You could sit here and put, 36 layers on here until you achieve that perfect gradient or that perfect softness that you're looking for. It's, again, going to be a visual preference on your part. So once that's nice and done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a line going across from dot to dot. I want it to be pretty soft and kind of out of focus. So again, I'm going to pick up both the burnt sienna and the burnt umber at the same time on my dirty brush. And I'm holding it this way as opposed to this way. And I'm going to go swiftly across, which means just kind of quickly. So I'm just going to connect from dot to dot like that. And then I just kind of keep rubbing it back and forth. You can even rub it up into that the wall surface and just give it a nice soft kind of entry into that wall. Something like that looks pretty good for me. If it went too much or you feel that you need to blend it a little bit more, you can pick up a little bit of that peach color and just kind of go over it softly. And that'll get it to get nice and blended with that wall and give you a nice soft transition into what's going to be the surface that your shoe is going to sit on, your shoe vase. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to pick back up my burnt sienna and my burnt umber, and I'm going to go a little bit more forceful coming down, or with a little bit more paint on my brush. I'm now going to turn my brush this way so I get a broader brush stroke. So something like this. We'll get that started. And now as I come down the floor, I'm going to use a combination of my burnt umber and my burnt sienna to just give myself almost the grain of wood, something like that. And it doesn't have to be anything specific. You can make yours look like a solid color. You can make yours look like it's got some good wood grain to it. The floor is not going to be the focal point of this. The shoe and the flowers are. So wherever you want to take this is totally up to you. I just keep picking up my brown and my burnt sienna. I think I'm going to try a little bit of my yellow. I said I was not sure if I was going to use my yellow. I just picked up a little bit of yellow just to put that little tiny bit of a different tone in there. That looks pretty. Now I'm going to pick up my peach to get this to blend down at the bottom. So just a little bit of peach. It'll soften these tones so it doesn't look too disconnected. It'll get everything to really work well together, picking up more peach and brown. So again, nothing really fancy down here, just a combination of peach, brown, burnt sienna. You could even, like I did, a little bit of yellow if you want to. And I just kind of keep going back and forth, giving myself this nice soft texture. A little bit of peach just went back on my brush. And then once I've got this done, let it dry. You might find that you want to add another layer to it. You might find that you want it a little bit darker or a little bit lighter. It's going to be, again, wherever your visual preference is. And then we're going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So once you've got this background and the floor done, you can put this large brush away. You can see I went a little bit lighter down at the bottom. I think I'm going to put a little bit more darkness down there. You can put this large brush away, take out any kind of drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for the shoe and the main flowers. So for me, that'll be the blue flowers. I'm going to be using my piece of chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers. We're going to connect those markers and basic shapes. We'll make some basic shapes, and by the time we're done, we'll have something that we'll be able to utilize during the coloring in process of painting. I'm not going to be going for any fine-tuned detail, and again, I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step. So I'm going to start with the shoe. What I'm going to do is, again, just guide you through some markers, and you can follow along. You can alter it to look like a different shoe if you'd like to, but I'm going to make mine look like just kind of a, I don't know, kind of rustic type of, you know, high heel boot shoe thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas. So for me, that's right about here. The first mark that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from that about, I would say, 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then over to the left about 2 inches, somewhere in through here. That'll be my first marker. My second marker, I'm going to come down from here about almost 1 inch, and then I'm going to go to the right of that about 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches, somewhere in through here. So I'm about, I would say, about 3.5, 4 inches from the, it's almost about, I guess, 1/4 of the way over. Between here and here is almost about 1/4 of the way. So somewhere in through there. I'm going to connect these two with an arcing line that does not go up above higher than my halfway point. So something like this will give me my arcing line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a marker for the tip of the shoe. So I'm going to come down to the left-hand side of my canvas. I'm going to come up about 2 inches and in about 2 inches. Somewhere in through here is going to give me the tip of my shoe. I'm going to connect here to here with an inward arc, and then I'm going to come down like the top part of the foot, and then we'll give it a little toe. So I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to come in just a little bit, kind of come down in through here. This will be the, we'll call it the top arc of the foot, something like that. And then I can give it a little toe in through there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down just a little bit further till I'm maybe about 1.5 inches away from the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to give myself almost a horizontal line. It's going to go up just a little bit. So I'm going to find myself again the center of my canvas. Down at the bottom. I don't know why I had to start up there, from down at the bottom, center of my canvas. I'm going to come up just a little bit higher than this marker, and then maybe just in to the left, just a smudge. Somewhere in through here is going to give me that marker. I can connect these with a horizontal line, but again, it's going to be a little bit at an angle. My shoe is tipped just a smudge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the right of here, maybe about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then up just a little bit. So I'm going to create the bottom or the back heel part. So I can then go to the right of this about 1.5 inches to 2 inches and connect these. So this should almost be in line with each other at that specific angle. You can bump this out a little bit to make it like a little curved heel, but that's not entirely necessary. Then what I'm going to do is from here, I'm going to have the inside part of this heel at a little bit of a inward scoop. So I'm going to take it like that, make a little inward scoop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come directly up from this corner. So straight up from this corner, about that's probably 1-2 inches, somewhere in through here is how high I'm going to do that. I'm going to connect here to here and here to here. So I'll do this one first because it's a little bit closer. I'm going to do it with a little bit of a curved line like this, and then I'm just going to scoop it around this corner and bring it back down to here. So that's going to give me that inside arc of the shoe, something like that. And of course it can be modified a little bit when we go to paint it, but that'll get us started. So the next thing I'm going to do from this corner here, I'm going to bring it inward about 1 inch, 1.5 inches like that, and then I'm going to connect here all the way down here. This is going to be the back side of the foot or of the shoe. So I'm going to bring it like this. I'm going to bump it out for the heel of the foot, and then I bring it back down here for the heel of the shoe, like that. That's all I'm going to do for the outline of my shoe. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline some basic, what are going to be kind of my largest focal point flowers, which for me are going to be my blue one. I'm going to have a big one up in through here. All I'm going to do is give myself a whole bunch of little curved lines that'll give me the exterior shape of my flower. Your flower will end up looking different than that, you know, relatively speaking. This is just intended to give you some place to put them and so we can work other stuff around them. I'm gonna have another one that's kind of facing right towards the viewer, and again, just gonna give myself a whole bunch of bumpy marks for the petals that I'm going to be doing. So something like that. And they don't, you can see I'm not making them super symmetrical, just something that's got these round type of edges. I'm going to have this type of flower, 2 of them that are going to be facing the side. So I'm going to give kind of a under arc up in through here, and then just a bunch of little bumps up at the top. And then I'll do another one of these way over in through here. So again, you could place yours different than mine. That's going to be totally up to you where you want your flowers to be, but I wanted these big ones in place so we can work all of our other stuff around it. So that's going to be all I'm going to outline. I'm going to be using my medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, make any little adjustments that you want, put your drawing utensil away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for the shoe, the blue flowers, and the yellow flowers. I didn't draw out the yellow flowers because they're smaller and I just wanted to be carefree when painting them, so I didn't draw them out. So we'll do the base coat for those as well as any petals that have fallen on the floor. Do I want to do those now? No, I'm going to do those petals later on the floor. We'll just do the flowers themselves. I'm going to use my medium brush. The colors I'm using are brown and white, which I'm going to make a custom tan. I'm going to use blue and white, making a custom light blue, and then yellow and white to make a custom light yellow for the yellow ones. So I'm going to start with my shoe. I have pre-mixed my tan color right here on my palette. How I got to that is just brown and white. So I didn't make any fancy color combination here or color recipe, just brown and white to give me this nice light kind of tan color. My brown, my burnt umber, when I add white to it, it almost makes it look a little on the grayish side. So I'm going to call this tan because it is brown and white mixed, but it might steer a little bit towards a light warm gray. So once I've got that on there, I'm just going to be coloring in this entire shoe. I don't need to paint any fancy direction. I just want to get a nice flat coat for the base on here. We'll be coloring in all of the other details and making it come to life in a future step. Just bringing this all the way to the edge of my chalk, and you don't even have to paint to the exact edge of your chalk. If you're going through this process, sometimes I like to even leave a little bit of my guideline visible, simply because I have a tendency to continue to make things bigger if my guideline is gone. So if you're one of those people and you fear your shoe getting too big, then definitely just leave a little bit of your outline. But if you're confident with not making it too out of proportion, then you can certainly just paint right to the edge, whatever is more comfortable to you. I like to tell you that just in case, you know, you do have some chalk left or you see some of my chalk left. It's, you know, it's really not a big deal because you can certainly erase it later with a little bit of water, or you can, you know, paint over it in a future step. So whatever happens with that chalk, it's no big deal if it's there or not there. So I've got that going on. I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way down here. And when you're getting into these smaller areas like this heel portion, if you felt that you wanted to use a smaller brush just to keep the integrity of the shape of these little points and stuff like that, you can certainly just switch brushes for, you know, those type of areas if that's going to help you out. You just use the tools that are the most comfortable for you and that bring you the best results with the way that your hand moves. We all, you know, move our hand differently, and we can control the brushes in different ways. So sometimes, you know, what works for me as far as my tool selection might not be what works for you. So you can certainly modify that. And of course you can paint this shoe a totally different color as well. So know that there's all kinds of options. I just give you the, you know, my thoughts and suggestions, and you can run with it in a different direction. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put my blue flowers on now. So wash and dry my brush. I have created a custom light blue, which is on my palette. So it's right here. What I did was I took ultramarine blue and added a little bit of white to it. So again, no fancy color combination here. Need a little bit more blue to get it in the same value. There we go. Just a nice light blue color with good opacity. So what that means is it's not going to be terribly transparent or translucent because I used a lot of white in it. So that's where I'm headed with that. These type of flowers, I'm just going to be doing kind of a generic daisy type of a flower. So I'm going to for these side ones, I'm just going to bring kind of like a little smiley mark, and then I'm just going to do these little bumps along the top. I'm going to have, again, these looking from the side, so I'm going to add some extra cool detail to it later, but that's just the way that I'm going to start it. For these guys in through here, I know that that's kind of my center, so I'm just going to do these edges and pull my paint towards that center, but it doesn't, at this stage of the game, really matter what your brush stroke is, especially when you're using this type of color that's going to cover really well. You most likely are not going to have a lot of streaking or anything along that line because it's going to cover pretty well. But if you do use a thinner paint, or if you choose to use a different color that is going to be a little bit more transparent, using this directional brush stroke, which is bringing it towards the center of that flower, that will just help to put the petals in the right direction and give you almost like that veiny kind of look to it. But that would only matter if you were, again, using a color that is going to have a little bit more transparency than what I'm using for my color choice. But most of the time, you'll find that I use my directional brush stroke regardless of whether I need to or not. But again, it's not important for me to be doing it at this point, but I seem to still be doing it. So just I kind of curve that petal, and then I'm just pulling that paint back towards that center of the flower. And then I've got this one over here that I'm gonna just do that little like smiley line at the bottom, and then just gonna give myself these bumps up at the top, trying not to be super systematic, and then just kind of pulling all of this towards this back area. Gonna bring that up a little bit more. So now I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. I'm gonna create a custom light yellow color. And again, you can make your colors whatever you want. I'm just going for some nice, you know, complementary type of pastel-y colors, but again, yours could be anything that you want. So I've already created my custom yellow right here on my palette. And again, a nice simple color combination or mixture. It's just yellow, my deep yellow, and white to create a nice pastel light yellow color that I'm going to be using as the base coat for these smaller flowers that I'm going to have. So I'm going to have just little ones all over the place, and they're going to be similar to this big style. So if I want one in through here, just, you know, mark your, or know where your center is, and then I'm just going to do these fun little petals along the edges that are kind of curved, pulling them towards the center of my of that particular flower. And again, you can have them going different ways. So maybe I want something similar to this, but it's on the side. So, but maybe this is a different type of a flower. So I can just kind of not do petals at the top and then just kind of do these little ones along the side, and it's going to look like we're seeing that from the side. I can have another one up and through here, and maybe this one I'm seeing the whole thing. So I'm just taking it and going around the flower with these just real generic petals, something like that. I'm going to have another one up in this vicinity, maybe almost as tall as that one, but again, just maybe we're going to see the side of this one. So just a little hump bump thing at the top, like an inside one. We'll have a little stamen thing coming out of the center of that. Over here, maybe I want one cute behind this guy over here. So if this is like my center, I can just put a little bit of this yellow back behind there and then just pull out some of these little petals, just popping their head out over, you know, from behind. You can make it as big as you want or as little as you want, totally up to you. That's looking cute. I think I want another one kind of in this area here. You can have it overlap your shoe or not. We're going to have leaves and stuff overlapping the shoe, but I think I'm just going to have this one kind of coming right to the base of it. And if I touch it by accident, that's okay because I've got more to go on that shoe, which will help if I bumped into it or not. And we're going to be putting a lot of like little space fillers into our flower bouquet as well. So if your initial layer of your flowers didn't go exactly as you had planned, don't worry about it. We've got plenty of stuff that will get it to look fantastic. And that's all I'm going to be doing for that step. I'm going to be using this same brush, this medium brush, for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry the medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the dark areas around on the shoe, on and around the shoe. We're going to do the inside of the shoe. We're going to paint like the shadows on the bottom side of the shoe. We're going to paint the little sole of the shoe. We're also going to paint the shadow on the surface of the shoe. So dark areas on our shoe is what we're doing right now. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, and my tan color. And if I need to go into any other colors, I will, and I'll let you know. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to do my really dark areas down at the bottom of the shoe. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black paint. And as you're doing yours, if you find that this brush is too big for certain areas, certainly just switch to your smaller brush. That's going to be a judgment call on your part. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to take from this area right in through here, and I'm going to connect it down to this bottom right hand corner. So something like this, and then just bring it down to this bottom, I say right corner of this thing right here, like that. And then I'm going to color in this inside area with just black paint. And again, you could certainly switch brushes if this brush was a little bit too big. I'm going to add a tiny bit of water to my brush so I can control the little tip of my brush. That helps me just to keep it nice and pointy and allows me to get into these little areas. But again, I've worked with these brushes a million times, so for me it's easy to do that. If for you need a smaller brush, feel free to do so. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little heel part right in through here. So I'm going to just give myself a horizontal line like that. You could even kick out this little back part if you wanted to. If you wanted that to look like this bottom part was a little bit disconnected from the actual leather part of the shoe, you could certainly, I know that a lot of the shoes I've owned in my day, they have this separate little piece on the bottom to protect the actual real shoe. So you can make that look disconnected if you want. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line right here and then just ride it along this back side of the inside of the arc of the foot. This is where you can clean up any line, any chalk mark or anything. And then this I'm going to just ride along here till I get to right about here. So I can take this like this and then just bring it right along here. And again, I have moisture on my brush, so that's why I'm getting a pretty clean line when I do this. Just bring it in through there. And then I'll get this bottom edge of this part of the shoe. Again, just bringing it all the way to my chalk mark. I know I'm not going to really be doing anything more on this. I might add a little bit of a highlight and a detail step, but you can get rid of your chalk mark at this point. And same thing with this front part of the shoe. If you wanted it to bump out a little bit from the leather part, you could certainly just bump that out a little bit. You can make whatever kind of shoe you want. That's the beautiful part about painting. You are in the driver's seat with the creativity and the design elements. So just bringing this a little bit down here so it looks like it blends into that nice. That looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna, while this is drying down here, I'm gonna go up and put a dark area on the inside of the shoe. I'm gonna, I have black on my brush. I'm also gonna pick up brown. So I have black and brown. I'm gonna take from this corner up in through here. I'm gonna come in a little bit. So maybe somewhere around here is where I'll get this to kind of blend out into that edge, but somewhere around here I'm going to take from this and give myself this curved line like this right down into the front of the shoe, and I'm going to kind of bring this all the way down pretty far, like down the arc of the front of the shoe. So I just picked up a little bit more black. You can even leave it a little bit away from the edge if you wanted to, the left edge, but we'll be disguising that with a shoelace in a little bit. So I'm going to bring it to right about in through here. And then I'm going to take that remnants of my brush and I'm going to paint this inside pretty darn dark like this. And then I'm going to let myself run out of paint, but I think I have too much paint on my brush, so I'm just going to give my brush a squeeze on my paper towel because I want to kind of fade this to that outside edge. So something like this. I want it to look like this edge of the shoe or the inside is kind of just flopping over and then just kind of blend it out here. This is where you got to make a decision if you want to pick up some of your tan color, which I do. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my tan color just to get this to blend out just a little bit more. Wiping my brush off, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown just to get this in the color that I want. There we go. That looks pretty good. And don't worry about it being perfect at this point. We still have another step left that's going to get us our final details on the shoe. So if it's not perfect right now, we still got another step to go. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water on my dirty brush. So whatever remnants I have on my brush, I'm going to create a little flap from this on the side that's closest to us. So I'm going to take from right here, I'm going to bring this in like this, and I'm going to give it a curve somewhere in through there. And then I'm going to do an upward curve like this. Going to bring it down along that area, and then just curve it back up like that. I'm going to do a couple other little strategic dark areas, like a little wrinkles in the shoe. So right along this arc of the foot, whatever remnants you have on your brush, you can kind of give these little wrinkles in the shoe. So you can even stick a little bit of water on your brush and just kind of bring in these dark areas as if this shoe has been worn a couple times and it's got these, you know, natural wrinkles from the person walking in it. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put some of this darkness on this back side of the shoe as well. So this is just giving me a little bit of shadow on this back side. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my tan in a second here. I just want to get this shadowy area to start to get represented. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to pick, oh, I need some underneath here too. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown paint because I don't feel like I have enough paint on my brush. I want a little shadow underneath this little flap. So up in through here. And again, just kind of rubbing it out with the side of my brush. I'm going to pick up some of my tan right now so I can get this back heel part to blend before I go too much farther into the shoe. So that was just my tan color on my dirty brush. There, that's looking pretty good. And blend it in over in through here. And then I want a little bit, I'm going to just put a little bit of water on my brush, just get a little bit more shadow underneath here. Maybe a little shadow of the of that flap in through there. That looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna just pick up my tan color just to make sure all of this blends in. So I just picked up my tan color on my dirty brush. Actually, I have too much black on my brush. I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. I don't want it to go too gray on me, so wash and dry my brush, and I just picked up more of my tan. I just want to make sure that I have a good second coat and that all of my shadowy areas blend in with that base color on the shoe. or if I want this clean shadow of this flap, that is as clean as I want it. And then before I call this step done, I'm going to do a little shadow underneath the shoe itself on the surface of the table or the shelf or whatever you want to consider this shoe is sitting on. It could be on a windowsill or, you know, somewhere where you would want to display a bouquet of flowers. So that's looking pretty good. Let me just put a second coat of this tan right in through here. So I have this. Oh, I can put a little bit back here too to make sure that that blends out and over into that little area over there. It's going to be a fun vintage shoe. All right, and now I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of the, I want to just a little bit more tan right in through here. This wasn't blending as much as I wanted it to. There we go, that looks good. And now I'm going to put, I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of brown and black on my brush to give myself just a shadow underneath that shoe. So I don't want it to go all the way black because I already have black as the shoe heel color. So brown and black is going to give me kind of a more transparent type of a shadow. So I'm going to have this shadow underneath here, maybe kind of coming on that back side a little bit and down around this edge. I'm going to put it behind it as well. So again, black with a touch of brown. I'm going to put some back in through here. You don't have to put much of a shadow. You don't even really need a huge shadow. It's all going to be depending on where you want your light source to kind of be represented. I know that my flowers are up high. I feel like my light source is kind of off to the left. So I don't even know if I'd see a shadow of my shoes or my flowers on my shoe. So I'm just kind of putting the shape of the shoe as I perceive it to be on that surface. I'm going to have some petals and stuff of that nature as well that are going to be adorning the tabletop. So I just put a little bit more black and brown on my brush with a touch of water so I can get this shadow underneath this front part of the shoe. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to finish my shoe. I'm using my number 2 round brush. You could certainly use any small detail brush that you would, well, small to medium detail brush that you would like. I'm going to be finishing this up with some strategic highlights that are going to give some good form to my shoe, and then we'll have some details for like the edge of where like the laces go and stuff, and we'll put some laces on and maybe even some cool seams just to decorate the shoe in a fun way. So again, I'm going to be using my tan color, white, brown, and black. And if I go into any other colors, I will let you know. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to be creating the rest of the form on the shoe. So I'm going to add a highlight in through here, get it to blend in with this other stuff that I did over here, maybe put a little highlight over here and a big highlight on this flap. So I'm going to pick up some white paint on my small brush. I'm going to put a big huge highlight right here on the top of the front of the foot. So something like this in through here. I like to put the brightest area on first and then kind of rub out that that highlight into the neighboring areas. So for me, I use these round brushes. I utilize kind of the side of them as almost like a scrubber type of a brush or a blending brush. And then once I've got it kind of blended out, I can pick up some of that tan color on my dirty brush and just get them to blend in with one another. And that gives me that great highlight right on the tip of the toe. And then I can get this to blend into these little wrinkles if I wanted to. If I wanted the wrinkles to stand out a little bit more, I can pick up a little bit of white plus my tan as I'm coming up this side of the shoe, and I can almost illuminate some of those wrinkles a little bit. So again, if you wanted those to pop out even more and make it look like, you know, the shoe is even more weathered, you can certainly do that. I'm going to put a little bit in through here, but I don't want to do too much white outside of this bright area. So if you do want highlights elsewhere, like in the side of the shoe, just use your tan plus white at the same time, and you'll get a version of the paint that's a highlight color, but a little bit darker than that white from the tip of the toe. I feel like I need to go a little bit lighter in through here for the contour of the foot, just to make sure it looks like we've got some volume on the foot in through here as well. So again, I'm just using white plus my tan on my brush to get that that part of the foot to pop out just a little bit more. Just picked up a little bit more white, and I'm getting this side of the foot to pop out more to the viewer by making it a little bit lighter. So that's just a little trick to add that contour. In through here, again, if I want there to be a little bit of volume to show that there's a foot in there, and so it's not so flat, I can just add a little bit of white plus my tan, and that's going to get that to pop out just a little bit. I don't need it to do much, just a little bit. That looks pretty good. And through there, that can dip in maybe the back of the shoe too, a little bit of white plus my tan, just to right in this one little area in through here. Get this to pop out just a little bit. So we've got the shadow down here and the shadow up top, but this center area can pop out a little bit more with the contour of the foot. And again, just white plus a little bit of tan is going to get that to happen. And then you can just blend it up and down into that neighboring shadowy area. I'm going to pop a little bit of white plus tan in this little heel part, just right on this little corner in through here. I just want it to stick out to the viewer just a little bit more. So again, and I keep wiping my brush off on my paper towel. That's a way that I use to control the quantity of paint on my brush. I'm going to pick up more white, get this area up in through here. I'm going to pick up a good amount of white, get this area up in through here to be pretty darn bright, so it sticks out to the viewer just like the toe of the shoe. And again, you can have any color that you want. You can have your shoe orange or purple if you want to. I just want mine to be kind of vintage and antique looking, so I'm just going for a cream type of a color that would resemble a vintage shoe to me. I call it vintage, but believe it or not, I've had shoes that look just almost exactly like this. So I think it's all up to interpretation what era a particular shoe was popular in, and I think in the fashion world fashions transcend from one generation to the next. So I just picked up a little bit more white to get the little highlight of this edge of the shoe to pop out. I don't need much there. Maybe just a little bit back in through here so we can see this as it's kind of going around. That looks pretty good. I think I want this a little bit lighter in through here. So again, I'm just keep picking up that white plus tan to get the areas to pop out as much as I want. This is the lightest and this is the lightest in through here. So that's looking pretty good. I'm feeling like I've got some good dimension on that shoe. I feel like we've got, you know, it bright where we want it, maybe even just a little bit more white in through here just to amp it up just a smudge more. Now I'm going to add some decorations on it, my laces and maybe a couple of seams. So I just washed and dried my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown paint, black paint, and water. So brown, black, and water are on my brush. I'm going to take from here and just give myself a little kind of seam where I feel that the heel would be attached somewhere in through there. And again, use your imagination. It doesn't have to be exactly as mine. I'm going to put a little bit of an extra shadow down this back side of the heel in through here just to get that to, there we go, go a little bit darker in through there. I'm going to do the same color combination, brown, black, and water are on my brush. I'm going to do a big, huge, just kind of decorative seam going from this area back in through here, and I'm gonna bring it all the way to here with a long kind of swooping type of a motion. So I'm gonna bring this, let me just kind of get my bearings straight here, down in through here, and I just want it to kind of look natural with that shoe. That looks pretty good. And you could use a little bit of water on your brush to just kind of soften your line and make it kind of almost look like it's almost dipped into that leather part of the shoe. So I just keep picking up a little bit of water on my brush and just softening it. That looks pretty neat. You can even put a couple of seams. Again, these are just decorative things. So I can put maybe a couple going in through here. Who knows what this leather maker was thinking when he or she was making this. We've got some little lace holes. So I'm going to put some little lace holes going along here. So I think the trick to the lace holes is just, you know, kind of equally spacing them, or trying to equally space them. Of course, I'm not doing a very good job at that. And then they just kind of go with the curve of that object. Maybe we've got, maybe I can't see these ones here. I'm just gonna clean up this line. So those will disappear over there. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more black, maybe put a couple of these little lace holes over in through there. Let's see, what else do I need? I need laces, and I think that's about it. So I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. Maybe I'm gonna pick up a little bit more white paint. I feel like I wanna just kind of amp up this little edge in through here. So I just picked up a little bit more white paint just to make sure I've got some good vibrancy there. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna, oh, and now I'm picking up a little bit more black. Get this little shadow underneath here, a little bit darker. That was just a little bit of black. Get this little shadow underneath here. So my laces, I'm going to be picking up, I want my laces to be kind of on the lighter side. So I'm gonna start them with tan, and then I will, at least the ones in through here, the one that kind of comes over here, yeah, I'm gonna start them all with tan. So tan is my color I'm starting it with, and I'm just gonna do this fun like crisscross. I feel like the seams of this are kind of hidden behind this edge, so I'm just gonna play with doing these like curved bumps, and you just get them to disappear on the other side. So a curved bump. And I think for me, the trick is to not think about it too hard. So once I get to about that area, I'm going to now come back in the opposite direction. If I can get my bearings straight here, and then just kind of crisscross it, something like that. And, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but at least it'll give you something that's representational. Then while that's kind of drying for a second, I'm going to take, because I stopped it right in through here. So because I stopped it here, I'm going to pretend like it's looping underneath there and then coming out right here. And I'm going to get it to kind of flow down to the floor. So I'm just going to kind of take it like this, flow down to the floor. Of course, you can't see it on top of the other color, but we'll fix that in a second. Flow down to the floor, and then maybe just kind of rest on the floor right in through here. And of course, you can have yours whatever. And the other side, I envision that we can't see it because it's on the other side. So now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of brown and black paint. I need a little bit of dimension in these laces. So a little bit of brown and black paint. And you can really just, I'm going to just take the, and imagine which one is on top. And then I'm going to put a little line underneath that one that's on top. So something like that works just well for me. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white and then just put a little white line on some of the curves that are on the top side. So again, nothing super fancy, just something that's going to give a little bit of dimension to it. This guy in through here, again, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown. I think I'm going a little bit of brown and black just because it's a bigger one and I want to be able to see it. And then I'm just going to pick probably just one side to go down on, you know, on either side. It doesn't really matter. As it's coming down, you might see the shadowy side on one side or the other. And then down here, just giving a little underline, something like that. And now I'm gonna wash and dry my brush and pick up a little bit of white paint to give some bright little pops along the way. Maybe I can even just kind of almost ride this all the way down, just in the opposing areas from where I put the shadows, something like that. And if you needed it to be brighter or darker, feel free to do so. I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. You can certainly do any little modifications, but we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this small brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to paint the base coat for my stems and my leaves for my bouquet of flowers. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm going to use are green, brown, and black. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So really what I want to do is just put a whole bunch of space fillers in between my flowers, do some generic type of leaves that are going to just fill in some spaces, maybe put some little leaves at the bottom of these flowers that are tipped to the side, and again, just something that's going to really fill it in and get it all to stick in my shoe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using black and brown as some nice dark tones, and I'll be using green just to start the greenery kind of process. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black and brown on my brush at the same time to just kind of plan out where I want my major stems to go. And I definitely want to have one coming for this big guy up in through here. And you don't have to worry at this point about bumping into flowers. Like I want this one to kind of go behind this guy in through here, and that flower's right in my way. So I can just kind of scoot it, you know, behind some of those petals and then just bring it down into my shoe. If you bump into these main flowers during this process, it's okay because we still have another step that's going to put those flowers back on top. So I don't want you to be scared about bumping into anything. So again, over here, this is a pretty big one in through here. So I just have black and brown on my brush right now. I'm going to pull this in, and I just want to pull it in a believable way, and I want the stem to look like it's big enough to support that particular flower. This guy up and through here, I think I'm just gonna kind of put him going like this. And you don't have to be as systematic with putting these stems in as I am right now. If you want yours to be more carefree, that's totally fine. But sometimes I find that I miss stems if I don't plan out these big ones. So this one I'm going to have just kind of curved over like this. And this one's just going to kind of come in here as well. And then again, just black and brown is what I'm using right now. This little guy up here, that's a really long, skinny one. So we're just going to kind of pull this down somewhere behind here. This guy and this guy can kind of have joint little stems. This guy over here is just going to come back like that. This one's going to come over here. And then this one is a little guy that I need more paint on my brush to accomplish. I'm going to bring this one maybe back behind here and then re-emerging in through there and then somewhere in through there. So I'm good. They all have a stem. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using green on my dirty brush and creating lots of just chaotic kind of long stem leaves to fill in the spaces. So I'm just picking up some green paint on my dirty brush. I'm going to pull this out in through here and maybe give myself a big floppy leaf in through here. Because I'm using a dirty brush, some of these are going to look pretty darn dark, and I want that to happen, especially on these first ones that are down by the bottom of my bouquet. I'm going to have another one kind of coming out, and you can flop them right over the edge of your shoe. And if your paint is see-through at this point, like mine is, don't worry. We've got another step that will take care of that. You can put a bunch of little green stems going on in through here. I'm going to put another huge leaf kind of on top of that first one that I did in through here. Again, just keep picking up green paint. This one's going to kind of lean right over the tip of my shoe in through here. Some of these are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller. It's okay, whatever size you want yours to be. I just keep picking up green paint. I'm going to put some at the bottom of a couple of these flowers too. So just kind of pulling some out here. And again, this is just the first layer. So we'll have some other fancy stuff that happens later on. I'm going to put another big one flopping over in through here like this, and shape them whatever way you want. They don't have to just be one generic shape. You can make some bigger ones, you can make littler ones. I'm going to have some behind this flower in through here, so this is where you can certainly get really carefree with painting them behind the flowers, and if you bump into the flower, awesome. That's what's going to make it look even more natural. Again, we have that future step that's going to that will take care of these little edges that are in front of or behind the flowers themselves. I'm going to put just a little bit more greenery back in through here. That looks pretty good. In through here, I want some, I think I want one coming out over behind this guy. So I'm going to put a leaf coming out from behind here. Just putting some big ones wherever I think that they would look good. Maybe one comes behind here. And it's okay if they end up in front of a petal too. Maybe that one's going to go, no, I don't want that one in front of that one. I want that one behind it. It's okay if they end up in front of a petal or of a flower petal. That's totally fine. You can have little ones, like maybe I've got some little ones coming off of these guys in through here. And if you're getting up top and the green is too vibrant for you, you can certainly start to pick up, because most of my brown and my black has worked its way off of my brush. You can pick up some more brown too. So don't feel like once the brown and black is off of your brush that you can't pick up anymore. You certainly can. I'm going to have, I think I want a couple kind of coming out the top of this guy over in through here. And again, bump right into those petals. It's okay. I'm going to put another big one over in through here. Diversify the look of your leaves. That's what's going to make it look more natural. Put some behind these flowers, but right up against it. Maybe put some coming down this little guy in through here. You can have fun additional space fillers, like if you want to have, you know, something coming out this side. I just picked up green and brown. You can have like just a greenery stem and then just kind of pop on these little tiny leaves going up it. That's a cute space filler kind of thing. Just filling in wherever I want this one to be a little bit bigger, wherever I feel I need to have some kind of you know, depth within there. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. We're going to have these little tiny baby, like baby breath yellow or little white flowers later that are going to be additional space fillers, but I'm thinking that I've got enough greenery in here. Maybe this one needs to go a little bit further. That looks pretty good. I just don't want it to look too spacey, like everything is perfectly spaced. I like to have that little messiness to it, and I think I've accomplished that. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to be using this same medium brush. So once you've got this step done, you can wash and dry this medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our flower petals, which will include the couple that I have laying on the surface or fallen down, and we're going to finish the leaves and the stems. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to use are light blue, light yellow, white, ultramarine blue, green, black, brown, and yellow. I'm going to use a lot of colors, but I will call them out as I use them. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to put my fallen petals, the base coat, so I can start them like I started the leaf or the petals up top. So I'm picking up some light blue, and I'm just going to pick a couple of spots to get some petals that have fallen on the table surface. So maybe we've got a big blue one in through here, and then maybe we have another little blue one somewhere in through here. And you can have them different sizes. Feel free to make them whatever you want. Maybe we see one from the side and one, you know, in a different angle. I'm going to put one back here too. This is just the blue, a blue petal. So trying to keep it similar in shape where it would be kind of bubbled at the end and pointy where it meets the center of the flower. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up some of that light yellow color and put a couple of small light yellow petals that have fallen on the ground. These would be smaller because it's a smaller flower, so I'm just going to put a couple of little small yellow marks. Maybe we've got one kind of underneath that one, maybe a little tiny one over in through here, and of course you can make as many or as few as you want, or none at all. I'm going to put one over in through here. Sometimes I just feel like this little tiny element helps to, I don't know, kind of tie those colors from the top to the bottom or unify the whole painting. So now I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to do, I'm deciding whether or not I want to do my leaves first, or I think I'm going to do my, my leaves first. So this is going to be just all the greenery. I'm going to be using green, yellow, white, brown, and black, and I just really want to add a second coat onto all this greenery stuff, add a little bit of highlight, maybe a little bit of shadow, just to give as much dimension as I want. So I'm going to actually pre-mix myself a light yellow or light green color. So I'm going to take my green, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white. So this way I have a light green color to just definitely use as a highlight color without having too many different tones within my leaves. So this is my light green color. I'm just going to take it and add it to some of the areas of the leaves that I feel would be kind of popping out towards the viewer a little bit more. I'm now picking up some green oxide on my dirty brush to get maybe this edge to pop out a little bit more. And you could really, as you're doing this, so I'm going to use my green oxide and my light green to just get these little highlighted notes onto these leaves. I'm doing a very generic leaf. You could do a really distinct type of leaf if you want to. You can show the little veins. You can really get it to be much more realistic than mine is. I'm just going for a nice interpretive kind of painting style here that's just going to allow for some loose representational type of leaves and flowers, but if you need yours to go more distinct than this, by all means. So that's going to give me a start to that little highlighty part. Now I'm going to just go through with maybe some little shadows to make sure I've got everything as deep and dark as I want it. And then I will just probably come back with a little pop of a highlight on the tips of these. I'm still just picking up my light color right now just to get, there we go. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and green to do some little bits of shadowy areas where I feel it would be necessary, like right underneath this flower in through here. I feel like I would have on this greenery part, I would have a little bits of shadows underneath there. Maybe as a leaf kind of comes and touches that stem, maybe we'd have a little bit of darkness in through here. Anywhere I want a leaf to kind of pop out in front of another one, I can add this little bit of darkness either on the leaf underneath it or as a shadow on itself. So you can certainly have like a little leaf pop out if you want to by just adding a little bit of darkness around it. So that's what I'm doing with these little guys in through here, is just adding little bits of darkness next to them so they can kind of pop out and we can see them in their individual self. If you could, and this is where you would kind of go through and add any little additional mark. You could even add like a little vein down the center of your leaf if you wanted to. That again is going to be little details that you can certainly modify to your own visual preference. I'm going to put a little bit, again, I'm just using green and black right now to get these little shadows and dark areas to emerge. You can again put little veins down the center if you want, and to just make sure that everything's fully rendered as you go through this process. Sometimes, especially when you're doing it as quickly as I do, sometimes things just really end up looking transparent or unfinished. So I do like to give that attention to a second layer just to make sure that I didn't miss anything and that it looks like it's complete. Like I've paid the same amount of attention in one area as I did the other area. Even if it takes me a couple more minutes to just go through and kind of fine tune those little guys. Right now I'm going to wash and dry my brush and just pop a little extra bright highlight on some of these leaves. So washing and drying my brush. And you could use your highlight color plus white, which I think is what I'm going to opt to do. So I have my highlight color, which is my light green plus white. So light green plus white. And this is where I would say, okay, I want this little guy to really look like this little section of this leaf is popping out. So I can add these brighter notes. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my light green, just to kind of get that to show just a little bit more. And of course, as you're going through this process, you might again want to use your smaller brush. If you want to use a smaller brush to accomplish this, great. I'm just picking up my light green right now because I'm feeling like that's working out pretty well for me. I might have to make more because I seem like I'm kind of running out here. I have to make more light green. So green, yellow, white. That's the joy of making custom colors. They, you know, oh, there we go. That's a good color match. So green, yellow, and white. Making custom colors, you just, you know, got to be mindful to make enough or to know how to remake that color. So that's my shtick. I really want to have the skills to see a color and be able to recreate it without going stir crazy with, oh my God, what were the exact colors that I used on it the first time? If I can teach myself, or if I can have that visual knowledge, okay, I see this color and I can make that color in a variety of different ways. I'd rather do that than to, you know, be scared about having the perfect color match. So it's a goal that I gave myself to, you know, have the skill set to make colors just on site. You can certainly give yourself that same goal. So I've got that going on. That looks pretty good. I got some good dimension in my leaves. So I'm going to head on to my flower petals, which is going to be whatever color I used here, plus white for my highlights, and or plus the original color, which, like for my blue, it would be ultramarine blue and my light blue for my dark areas, and then for the yellow ones it would be yellow and my light yellow for the dark areas, and then my light yellow and white for the bright areas. So I'm going to pick up ultramarine blue and light blue. I'm going to kind of get myself a little center area. I don't need to do much for the center. I just kind of want to know where it is. And then I can start kind of building these petals around my my center. So I'm using a very carefree kind of approach to this. You can have your petals kind of on that rounder side. You can have petals overlapping one another. You know, this is a carefree kind of a flower that I'm doing. I think my main goal here is just to make sure that I have everything painted in as much as I need to. So if I need to kind of go over a leaf as well, one of my leaves, just to make sure that I have fully executed that area, then I do that. If I want a dark leaf underneath, I can just add a little bit more of that blue. You can make it as light or as dark as you want. You can have them veiny. You can have them soft with a solid color. It's going to be totally up to you how bright or dark you want these to be. I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight in a minute, but right now I'm just going to kind of get this second coat on there, which is going to be with that base, whatever base color you used for the flower, plus a dark color, a darker version. So again, mine's going to be my, on my blue flowers, it's going to be my ultramarine blue plus my light blue, and for my lighter flower, my yellow flowers, it's going to be my my light yellow plus my deep yellow for my dark areas, and then my light yellow plus white for my light areas. So that one's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next one, which is going to be in through here. And again, have fun with this. You can make these whatever way you want. I'm just kind of bringing that dark area in the middle, and then going to pick up my light blue and just kind of get it to blend in. And you might again have to make more of that color. You could again use a different brush, whatever, you know, kind of is speaking to you, that's where you head. But this again is the step that I'm using to make sure that all of my petals are overlapping or properly placed on top of those leaves from behind. Or if you wanted a leaf to be in front of it, you can certainly do that as well. So these two little guys in through here, first I need to make some more light blue because I'm out. So I'm going to just make a little bit more light blue. What I'm going to do with these guys is I'm going to put a dark kind of center that's going to be inside the cup, a dark area at the bottom of them, and then I'll do the light petals. So I'm going to pick somewhere up in through here, give myself kind of a little ripply line like that, and then just pull this up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. So somewhere up in through here, going to just give myself kind of a little ripply line and then pull that up into those top little petals. And then I can use that darkness at the bottom. I'm going to wipe my brush. I want a little bit more ultramarine blue. I picked up a little ultramarine blue and just pull it up from the bottom up into those little petals like that. Do the same thing on the other one. Pick up some dark blue, put it at the bottom, and then just kind of pull it up into these exterior petals like this. And then I can pick up my light blue, if I have any left on my tray, and just kind of reverse it to give myself the appearance of these only from the side. So just kind of pulling that down. You'll see it better when I add the white to it, but that's looking pretty good in through there. So now I'm going to start picking up more of my light blue that I'm going to make more of. I keep running out of the light blue. There we go. Light blue is on my brush, plus some white, and I can give myself some little bright edges. And again, this is going to be a visual preference on your part. You might want a lot of light edges. You might want to see these petals really, you know, see one in front of the other one. Up to you how bright you want to go. So you could even have different layers of the flowers. Maybe you have like 2 or 3 different tiers of the petals going in there, but up to you. I'm going to pick up some more white with my light blue on my brush. This is where you're going to see these little guys kind of really pop out, and just pull this back down into that dark area. Put on a little bit more white on my brush, just on these little tips up in through there, and then I can pull it down just a little bit. And I'll do the same thing with this guy. Just kind of give myself a couple of little light areas around those edges, and then just kind of gently pull it back into the flower. And if your paint dries too fast on you when doing this, maybe you don't do as many petals at the same time as I just did. That was pretty aggressive of me to do that, but you can certainly go at whatever pace works for you. A little bit of white on my brush to get these little edges in through here. And again, maybe on the smaller flowers you use a smaller brush, but I think I'm doing all right, so I'm just gonna continue on that. So now I'm gonna move on to my yellow one. So washing and drying my brush, I'm going to pick up just my regular deep yellow plus my light yellow on my brush at the same time. I'm going to kind of start in that center and then just kind of pull these out. I might not need to do as much on these ones as I did my blue ones. So again, just that center, just looking for, again, a nice second coat to the flower. And these are smaller than the blue ones, so I really don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. I just, again, am mindful as to those leaves that are surrounding these flowers. So if I've got, I just want to make sure that I overlap them where I need to. So deep yellow in the center, and then kind of just pull it out in whatever kind of petal formation you want to do. Ooh, this is looking pretty with just a two-tone kind of swipe in through here, and just making sure that I've got that flower overlapped in the necessary areas. If I need to bring it down further, like I felt like I needed to bring that one down just a little bit further to overlap those leaves, you can certainly do that. That looks pretty. Get that one. So again, just deep yellow to get that little center, and then I'm doing just a two-tone swipe here with both colors on my brush. Seems to be satisfying me for the petals, and again, make it as light or dark as you want. That one overlapped, which is fine, but I might need another layer on it. Over here, again, just keep repeating the same process. Maybe my center on this one is here, and maybe this one kind of scoots behind that one, and then just at that second layer. And then I'll hit my ones down on the ground or on the floor in a second here. But I want to put a little highlight on my yellow ones. I'm really digging the color of them right now, but I want them to be a little bit more vibrant. So I'm just washing and drying my brush, and I'm going to pop a little bit of white paint on my brush. I might even be able to get this without the light yellow, because the yellow on my flowers is still kind of wet. So I'm just going to swipe this white and see if that feeds my painterly eye, which I think it's going to. So I'm just kind of adding this little white accent on these petals like this, so it's kind of just intermingling with the yellow, and it's making me very happy. So I don't really need to do anything else after this, just making sure that I've got as much on here as I want, giving them little curves so they look like they've got some life to them and they're bending. This one's going to be pretty in through here, nice. And then this little guy up here, and then I just need to hit my ones on the floor. So since I had the white and the yellow on my brush, I think I'm just going to pick up a little bit of deep yellow, give myself a second coat on these guys, and kind of whatever happens with these guys. These are just little accents down here, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of brown and black on the tip of my brush, just put a little tiny shadow right underneath that one, that one. I have a dirty brush. This probably isn't the smartest thing to do right now, especially underneath these guys, but it's working out. So I'm just hitting a little dark area right underneath them, and then I'm going to wash and dry my brush and put a little bit of ultramarine blue. And ultramarine blue, give myself a little dark accent on some of these blue ones. And then I wipe my brush off, picking up some light blue plus a touch of white. Just give myself a little light highlight on these guys, and then just making sure I've got a good second coat on them. So again, didn't do much to them, just kind of swiped those additional colors on there to make sure that they were representational of the petals up top. And then we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, do any little fiddling adjustments that you want. You can then take out a small detail brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our bouquet of flowers. This is going to entail finishing the centers of the flowers, and I'm going to do a little bit more space fillers with the representation of these little baby's breath type of delicate little white flowers. How I'm going to do this is I'm using my small brush, my number 2 round. I'm going to be using black, white, brown, and if I need to dip into any of my colors for the flowers, I certainly will, and I'll let you know if I have to do that. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to be using a little bit of black plus a little bit of water on my brush. So a little bit of watered down black is how I'm going to start this with the stems of the baby's breath. So what this is going to be is just a whole bunch of little tiny black lines. So you can make a ton of them. You can make them coming out wherever you want. We're going to put little tiny white flowers on them in a little while. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm just putting, think of it like little whiskers or just these little tiny, you can even put them in front of a petal if you want to, or in front of leaves, wherever you want there to be just a little pop of a light color. I'm going to have, I think I want to have one kind of coming out. I want some over here. So I needed a stem to get them there. So I just made a stem coming from out my shoe. And then I'm just going to kind of pull out these little tiny strings of sorts, little tiny delicate little stems. Let's see, where else do I want them? I think I want a little batch of them in this area, in through here. So again, just little tiny, you might not even need to do this for me, or I might not even need to do these little stems in this little section in through here, but anywhere you want them. Maybe I've got some kind of coming out in here, out of this little piece right in through here. So I just keep putting watered down black paint on my brush. You can have these overlapping stuff if you want like this to overlap this little space filler in through here. Feel free to, again, put them wherever you want. They're great. They're just going to be these little accents. I want to put some back here behind this flower up at the top. So just kind of putting a bunch of little black lines shooting out from behind here. And not pressing hard, that's the whole trick. I'm using black paint with water. I'm controlling the tip of my brush by not pressing very hard. That's, you know, it's a trick in itself. It's an art of itself. You could use little paint markers that help to keep those lines nice and skinny, but I think that worked out well. I think I want to have a little cluster of them kind of just shooting out of this little area over here. And I think the biggest thing is just to make them not consistently, you know, the same size. I'm going to have a big section of them kind of out here, drooping out over here. And, you know, again, balance the painting, but don't make it symmetrical. So if I do have a big area over here, I don't want the same exact one over here, but I put one up here and here, so that kind of balances it. So just feel, you know, whatever makes it, you know, visually appealing to you, but not over weighted on one side versus the other. So that's looking pretty good for those guys. While those are drying, I'm going to go and do the centers of the flowers. So I have a little bit of black on my brush right now. I'm going to also pick up brown paint, and I'm going to find myself the centers of the flowers. And you're not going to necessarily see the center on all of them, but I definitely can see the center on that one. And I'm just going to do this little polka dotty type of center. If you feel that it doesn't connect well to your petals, what you can do is you can just wipe your brush off and you can pull out just little tiny bits of darkness in between some of those petals, and that'll help to separate those petals a little bit more in that center, so it'll connect them to the center better, and it'll also kind of give you that little shadowy look. We're going to add some little highlights on top of that in a minute, but I just want to get the centers on. So again, brown predominantly. If you feel you need a little bit of black because your flowers are darker, you could certainly use that. This little guy here, I feel like I'm going to see it up towards the top like that. I want one in here. I think I'm going to use more black on these blue guys. So a little bit more black on these blue ones. And you can make your centers tiny, big, whatever works for you. I just kind of am polka dotting it in through here. That looks pretty good. I don't think I would see it up there, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick up some brown. I'm going to put some more, or do this little guy here because I didn't have one there or there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue right now just to pull this out. So whereas the yellow ones, I pulled out these little strings with these little shadows with brown. The blue ones I can do it with blue. So that'll kind of complement it, the petals. It'll make it look like it's kind of working together. And then I can go through and put little highlights. So I'm going to just wash and dry my brush. And on the white, the yellow ones, I'm going to just do. I think I'm just going to do white. Let's see what happens with that. So just little tiny. Yeah, we're just going to do little tiny white polka dots towards the top of that center, but maybe keeping a couple of those shadows above it into the petals. So just little tiny white polka dots working for here. Something that you can see. That's the whole name of the game. You want to be able to see it. There's no sense in doing it if you can't see it. And on these guys up here, these ones would probably go way above because we can't see the other side of it. So that's looking good. A little bit right in through here. These are so cute. Little tiny flowers. And the blue ones, I'm just going to use white too. If you felt you wanted to change color to maybe white plus your light blue, you could certainly do that, or you could even use pink. You know, you could change up the color in these. The centers of these could be, you know, white and red for a little pink color, whatever works for you. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to do my little baby's breath, but hold on, I need to fix this little petal here. I just picked up some light yellow. I can see through this petal, so I'm going to fix it right now before I forget. There we go. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm just going to pick up some white paint. You could use a combination of your tan plus white if you wanted to. I'm just going white polka dots for my baby's breath. You could do anything you want. I'm just doing varying sizes of white polka dots on my little clusters of little stems. So again, try not to make it too systematic. You can put them going up the stem. Don't just put them on the tip of the stem, but put them throughout that whole formation so it looks like they're kind of growing within it. And just be mindful of where you put all those little black stems, because you don't want necessarily a cluster of black stems and not have anything attached to them. I don't know, I mean, I guess that could make sense, but you could even put them in front of petals, in front of leaves, whatever, you know, wherever you feel that it would behoove you to have these little tiny space fillers. If you wanted them to be a little bit darker and have more of diversity in the colors, you could certainly, again, use some of that tan, and or you could use it a little bit thinned out, which is going to make it look like there is like it's transparent and taking on some of that background color. Or you could even pick a different color, because I know that baby's breath do come in different colors. I think white is the traditional color, but you could certainly do, I think there's pink and, you know, other maybe yellow and stuff like that. So again, feel free to diversify your color of your baby's breath. I think I want to, I just wiped my brush off. I'm picking up a little bit of black. I feel like I need to put a little bit more shadow underneath this flower right in through here. So I just picked up a little bit more black to get that to happen. And this one too. When I see something, it's like, oh no, I need to fix that right now. Sometimes you know, if it will escape you if you don't do it when you think about it. That looks pretty good. So I think that's all I want to do on those guys. So we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got all of your baby's breath and your centers done, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I think I'm gonna go bottom right on this one. I'm using my small brush. I'm gonna use black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date, or you could use a special symbol. You can sign it however you want because it's your painting and you get to put your own identifying mark on it. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very beautiful bouquet boot. And I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.